My name is Adrie Wisman. Hein introduced me. Thank you, Hein, for the invitation and the opportunity to tell you a little bit about blockchain. Welcome also in Blockchain Lab Drenthe to be precise. We are a non-profit foundation with the goal to spread knowledge, experience and insights about blockchain towards entrepreneurs, students, schools, but also private people. We're heavily invested in Interreg project Bling, which you can also see here, which is a project of 6 countries and 13 partners. Bling stands for Blockchain in Government, and it's all about the application of blockchain projects in public services. Today I'm going to talk about blockchain and energy, and let me tell you, there are lots of topics that I could talk about when it comes to energy and blockchain. The first 20 minutes or so I'm going to explain to you what blockchain is, but during the quiz I already saw that many of you know already the basics, so I'll skip that a little bit. And the second 20 minutes I'm going to go into energy project, but also the energy that blockchain uses, because that's quite a thing. It gives a lot of discussion about if it is efficient or not. Okay, let me switch over to my presentation. Blockchain and energy, or energy transition. Let me get my presenter. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of information. Now, this presentation is going to stay on YouTube, so if you want to look it back or rewind or anything, or tomorrow you say, well, what did he say? Just use the link that Hein sent you, and it'll still be there. Okay. We're changing the internet. Right? You all know, live and breathe internet. You don't only use it for looking at pictures of cats, but you use it for your internet banking. You use it to store your Strada data, your sleep data, everything. But until now, the internet was mostly used for sending data. And we're changing that. Blockchain is changing the internet in a way that it now is going to be used for sending values, sending trust, right? And that was one of the questions also in the Kahoot. Now, what is blockchain? I hope you looked at the little movie I sent you, but if not, this is the definition of blockchain, and I won't bore you with the Wikipedia explanation. If I would have to cook it down to just a few words, then the blockchain is a decentralized, transparent, append-only logbook. Right? That's what it all boils down to. It all started in 2008, so it's relatively new. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto, and this is a fake name. We don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, if it's a he or a she or a consortium. This person or organization developed a new way to work with eCash. Before that, we also had some eCash stored, for instance, on a USB stick. But that was very easy to copy, and there was a problem with it. The double spend problem. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto solved that in 2008, wrote a white paper about a new way of eCash, and he made his first transaction in January 2009. So, roughly 12 years ago, Bitcoin was born. Now, Bitcoin is something different than blockchain. Bitcoin is a technology which is built on top of blockchain. 98% of the people think that Bitcoin and blockchain are the same, but you could say that blockchain is the engine in the car or in the truck or whatever, right? And you can make different kind of cars with it, different kind of trucks. Bitcoin is just one of them. Now, this all requires a different way of thinking, right? Up till now, you have been thinking centralized. All administration has been centralized, right? You've got your money in a bank, right? But you can only get it in or out at that bank or that bank organization. If you have your money at the Rabobank, ABN AMRO doesn't know exactly what you have. You cannot get your money from the Bank of America, right? They have information systems which are coupled, but your money is at the Rabobank. Land registry, kadaster, right? There is one organization in Holland, kadaster, which registers how many square meters you have. RDW, that's Rijksdienst voor Wegverkeer. That's the vehicle registrations office. It's all centralized. What we are talking about is a decentralized world. All the information is stored on 10,000s of computers at the same time. And that requires a complete different way of thinking. Now, most of you will know blockchain from cryptocurrencies, right? As you can see here, Bitcoin, this was from a few hours ago, is at the moment 57,000 euros. And Ethereum is at 3,000, oh, that's dollars, not euros. And most of the time when it's in the news, it's about how high it went today or how low it crashed today, right? This generates a lot of publicity, but it's only a small aspect of the spectrum of blockchain. There are so many applications, and also in energy, and I will show that to you. Now, here you see there are many coins, right? This was only the top 10, but there are thousands of coins. And they all have different characteristics. Like I said, there is not one blockchain, there are many. There are public blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Lisk, Iota, etc. And there are private blockchains like Hyperledger, but also Ethereum. And not only that, there are different generations of blockchain. Right? Bitcoin, which I just told you about, is the first generation. It was invented in 2008 and realized in 2009. But Ethereum is a second generation, where Bitcoin stores transactions. Ethereum can store value and smart contracts, small computer programs stored on the blockchain. The third generation is, for instance, Iota. And Iota is a different kind of blockchain. It's called a tangle. It doesn't work with blocks, I will show you in a moment. But Iota is developed for machine-to-machine economy. Very small transactions for one robot in a factory which pays another robot for performing a certain task. Or your car paying by himself for the parking fee, right? There are small amounts of money changing hands, or hands might not be the right term to use here, but that's Iota. Right, so where Bitcoin is described as digital gold, right? Large transactions with a little bit higher fee, but just transactions, is Ethereum described as the portable world computer. It has a way of working with smart contracts. So you store a little program on the blockchain and it runs on 10,000s of servers. Right? So it's unstoppable. And Iota, like I said, is known for its machine-to-machine economy. A classic blockchain is something like this. The data is stored in blocks and these blocks are chained together. And we'll try to hack a classic blockchain in a moment live. And you'll see this data in that form. Now, the Iota tangle is quite different. Every transaction is its own block. And it's not stored in a chain, it's stored in a tangle, which is some kind of a parallel chain. And every transaction confirms 4 to 8 other transactions. And there are no miners, etc. Now, it was already in the quiz, but all these different blockchains have the same characteristics. They are decentral, they are chronologically stored, transparent, immutable, and they're using encryption so nobody can look into the data or change it. That is not new. Everybody thinks, well, Satoshi Nakamoto did something very, very special. But in fact, the way that he described his system, it was already used for about 2,000 years on a very small island called Yap in Micronesia. Here you see John. John is standing next to a coin. And you see it doesn't fit in his trousers. Oh, he doesn't have any trousers. Okay, but you see this stone was their form of payment, and they used the same technique as Satoshi Nakamoto described in his white paper. I have a small animation film for you, so you can see how that works.
Blockchain. Let's go back to 500 AD on the island of Yap, located in what is now Micronesia. The Yapese people had stones like this everywhere. This is a Yapese coin. It was their money. It's about 200 kilos, so spending these like modern coins, that posed a bit of a problem. Well, the Yapese solved this by not ever physically moving the coins. The coins were placed in very visible locations on their tiny island. Every adult Yapese knew who the owner of each coin was by memory. When two people wanted to transact, they would announce the change in ownership to the other Yapese, who would all update their knowledge of whom the coin belonged to. Voila, the coin was exchanged. The Yapese were using what we would call a distributed ledger. It's a ledger in that each Yapese had a mental record of the ownership of all coins, and they would mentally update that ledger anytime there was a transaction. It's distributed in that the ledger wasn't just known by one person, it was known by all people. Now, the Yapese could have asked one person to keep track of the mental ledger of coins. That person would have to be really trustworthy in terms of both honesty and administration skills. The monopoly that person would have on transaction activity might lead them to charge a fee or make rules for who and when one can transact. And problems would arise if that person fell ill, decided to leave, or if their integrity was compromised in some way. That central person would be a bank. Distributed ledgers perform many bank-like functions without requiring trust in a central entity. In the Yapese example, a person can't tamper with the ledger and claim ownership of a stone that doesn't belong to him, lest all the Yapese come forward and contradict his claim based on their knowledge of the ledger, so fraudulent transactions aren't likely. Also, if one particular member of the tribe isn't available or moves away, thereby losing a copy of the ledger, transactions can still be validated by the other Yapese, so the system is fault-resistant. Perhaps most interesting is what happens if a coin gets destroyed or lost. In one instance, a large stone fell overboard on the way back from the island where they quarry the stone. No problem, the other Yapese decided. We can imagine your coin sitting there in the ocean, we'll give you credit for it, and we will mentally use it for transactions like we do with the others. So even if for all practical purposes the coin doesn't even exist, they could still use it to transact.
So let me go back. So now you see that this is all not really new, right? These people have been using this technology for ages, right? But we are just doing that with computers and the internet to speed it all up. I must put my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so that's the way it works. It all starts with a hash. A hash is something special, and it's one of the pillars on which blockchain rests. And I'll switch over to my browser. Let me just go there. My browser. And go here. I'll show you what a hash is. Okay. Here you see a screen, you see some text, probably some familiar text, and under that you see a hash. Now a hash is a digital fingerprint. The hash is the result of a formula calculated with the text as an input. Now that's very special in a way that if I change something in the text, let's say I put a period behind that, you see that the hash will change. And it doesn't change a little, it changes dramatically. Right? When I put a period on the end, it changes the whole string, not only one thing, but the whole string. So this is a signature, a fingerprint of that text. It has a certain length, and it doesn't concern how long the text is that I use for an input. It is always the same length. Now that fingerprint is very important, and you'll see why in the next step. We'll go to a block of information which is stored in the blockchain. What you see here is exactly the same. I have a block of information, some data. I have the hash here, but I also have a block number, and I have a nonce, a number used once. Now, if I change something in the text, you see that my fingerprint changes. You also see that this block is reddish. It was greenish, it now is reddish. And that is because we have a formula that says the hash has to start with 4 zeros to be special, to be to have a certification stamp. Now you see it doesn't start with 4 zeros here. The only way I can change that fingerprint is by changing one of these fields. Now I don't want to change the text. I can certainly not change the block. I can change this nonce. And by changing that number, I can try to find a hash that starts with 4 zeros. Now, one characteristic of a hash is it works only one way, right? We are used to have our arithmetic, our mathematics work in two ways, right? 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 times 7 is 21, 21 divided by 7 is 3. Not with a hash. I can only put something in, calculate the hash, but I can never go from the hash back to the text. So the only way to find a hash which starts with 4 zeros is to try. And I have to try and put in a 1, no, 2, no, 3, etc. I could be here a long time. Now we have a button here, mine. Now my computer does that very fast. And he says at 113,090 is a number which makes this hash start with 4 zeros. Now, this might seem trivial, but this is very important. This is how mining works. You've all heard about miners and Bitcoin miners, etc. What these people do is they put transactions in a block, and then they start trying to find a nonce which solves the puzzle to have a hash which starts with a number of zeros. And 4 zeros is relatively easy. At the moment we are at 20 zeros. That means that if you do this at home on your PC, it would take you on average 2 to 3 years before you find a nonce which generates a hash which starts with 20 zeros. So it's very hard to do, right? Okay, let's take one more step. This is a blockchain. You see the same blocks. You have the data, you have a hash, you have the nonce, a block number, and you have here previous hash. This is the hash the same hash as the previous hash. So these blocks are linked, right? This hash from this block is also recorded in the next block. I have a number of blocks here, right? At the moment, the Bitcoin blockchain is at 600,000 blocks, 620,000 blocks or something. So that's a lot. Now we're going to see a trick. If I'm an old hacker, if I want to change the information on the blockchain, and I can because the blockchain is decentralized and it's permissionless. So I have a copy of the whole Bitcoin blockchain on my laptop. It's hundreds of gigabytes, but it's permissionless. I can get that information. I can look into that information. It's transparent. So as an old hacker, I want to change the information. I just got 10 Bitcoins from Hein, and I want to change a little bit. I'm a little greedy. I want to make 1,000 Bitcoins from Hein. And you see, because I changed the information, the block became red. Because now the hash doesn't start with the number of zeros. Right? So let's presume I have a very fast computer. I have a computer which does that work, what in average 2-3 years is, in 5 seconds. It's a super computer, and it'll take a lot of energy, right? So I'll probably have a nuclear energy plant next to my house. Nobody knows that I have such a big computer in my attic. I can calculate in a few seconds the new hash. Great. Then still, the information which is stored in the next block is incorrect, because this hash doesn't correspond with that hash. So I would have to mine that block also, and that block also, till the end of the range. And here comes the trick. Calculating a hash, one hash, is very easy. But calculating trillions of hashes costs a lot of time and energy. Now, if I have a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, I just have to look at the last block. And does this block have the number of zeros that I need? Then I can rest assured everything is okay. I can check in a microsecond, but if I want to do fraud, it'll take years and a lot of energy. Right? So that's why the blockchain is so secure. By the way, Hein asked me, if you have any questions, put them in the GoToWebinar chat, and he will relay them to me. Okay, let's say I have that. I have more processing power than all the computers on the whole planet together. And I have all the energy I need to run that thing. So I calculate all these new nonces. That's very hard to do, but let's say I succeeded. Then there's still a little problem, because the blockchain is decentralized and distributed. So my copy of the blockchain is just one of 10,000s of copies. And if I have changed something and calculated, did all that work and spent all that energy to do that and got the solution, then still I will present people, this is the truth. This is the state of the blockchain. And they will say, well, we got something different, right? There are 9,999 people who think otherwise. So they'll throw away my solution. If I want to hack the blockchain, I not only need more processing power than all the computers together, I not only need all the energy, but I will also need to hack more than 51% of all the blockchain miners on the planet. Only if I have a majority, I can change the system. So that's very, very hard. Okay, so those are blocks. That's blockchain. You know what hashes are. nonces are. I'll go back to where we were and I'll change to that. Okay, select my PowerPoint. Now every 10 minutes a new block is generated, right? The algorithm that Satoshi Nakamoto designed was designed in a way that on average every 10 minutes one of the miners on Earth finds a solution. And you can imagine that that is something dynamic, right? In 2008, computers were not that fast as they are now. And in 2008, there were less people mining than there are now. So how it works is this. The system itself, the Bitcoin blockchain, measures how fast the solution is found. And if this computer capacity goes up, more computers, faster computers, so the time to finish the puzzle goes to 8 minutes, then the complexity is changed, is increased. And then it says, oh, next block will be with 21 zeros. So then the complexity goes up and all these miners will need more time to find the solution for the next block. Or if energy prices go up and Bitcoin miners switch off because it's no longer feasible to mine this coin, then the complexity might go down from 20 to 90 or 18, right? So it's a self-correcting mechanism. So even if you find a way to change a block, you'll have to do it faster than the 10 minutes, and still you'll have to hack all the other servers also. Now this mining is done on special hardware, right? You see here, this is an ASIC miner, and they are stored in miner farms because the biggest cost factor is energy. And so a mining farm is situated in a country or in a region where energy is very cheap. So you'll see, for instance, that a lot of mining factories are situated in China, in the region where there is hydroelectricity. Right? There are dams and in rain season they have a lot of energy for a very cheap price. Now let me take some misunderstandings about blockchain and Bitcoin and explain a few things. Here you see my wallet, right? You see some money in there, and that's my wallet. That's not very difficult to understand. Next to that you see my keys, my keychain. Well, in blockchain, in cryptocurrencies, those keys are called a wallet. If you have a wallet, if you have a crypto wallet on your phone, it doesn't have the coins in there. The coins are on the blockchain. In your wallet are your keys, your passwords, which you can use to spend your money, right? And you can store those keys on your phone or on a special USB stick, which is not copyable, all right? But wallets and keys, that's completely different than what you have in your pocket. Now there are lots of other things. Those miners work for a reward. A Bitcoin blockchain miner, he mines and he has 2,700 transactions in one block. And if you are the one that solves the puzzle the fastest, then you will get 6.25 Bitcoin. Well, you can imagine that's $350,000, $360,000 at the moment. All the other people get nothing. They are just trying to find the puzzle, to solve the puzzle for the next block. But if you look at that, a blockchain transaction is actually very expensive, right? Just you don't have to pay it. You only have to pay $20 US in a moment. The problem with blockchain is that the speed of transaction is very low at the moment. So what you will see is that the current capacity is about 7 transactions per second in Bitcoin. When you compare that to Visa, which does, around Christmas, he does 50,000 transactions per second, then there's a big difference. Now, there are a few things. It's not very decentralized because a lot of them are in China. I will leave you with that. There's a lot of happening in blockchain at this moment. A lot of things are pandemic related. There is a vaccine cold chain tracking. The vaccine passport will probably be stored on the blockchain. There's already a test going on Frankfurt Airport with this firm, which stores your credentials on the blockchain. There is a CBDC, the digital euro, digital yuan, at this moment developed. So the central banks would like to keep you as a customer and not go into bitcoins or ethers or Libra. Oh no, Diem at the moment is how the Facebook coin is called. Now, blockchain is going to disrupt a lot of industries. Healthcare, governments, banking, you name it. And there are lots of projects, and I'm going to name a few of them. Here you have a project in energy, right? Where they use crypto energy, crypto technology to flatten the curve of energy stations, right? They say that crypto mining could be used as a buffer, right? A large energy station, you cannot just switch them off when people use less energy. So the surplus, although the demand goes down, could be used to power up crypto mining farms who use that surplus energy and transfer that into money. And that money can be used to lower the price for the energy. Energy is a hot topic, right? You must have heard about the energy consumption of, for instance, the Bitcoin blockchain, right? You see some numbers, how much energy is put into one transaction. And that is because all these miners do that proof of work, that puzzle, at the same time. Right? And only one gets rewarded, but all the others spend that energy. And in a way, that energy which is spent is also taking care of the trust, right? Because if you would like to do some fraud on the blockchain, then you would need to spend all that energy to get the same result. And that is much too expensive. Now, not all blockchains are that inefficient. For instance, if you look at Iota, in Iota you do your transactions, your mining, on your phone. If I do an Iota transaction on my phone, it will verify 4 other Iota transactions, and only with the energy from my battery, from my phone. Right? So there you can see that it is even less energy than one Visa transaction. Here you see one of those paper articles. Right? Bitcoin power consumption is 66 times higher than 2015, Citigroup says. Yes, there is a lot of energy spent in the first generations of blockchain. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, because they work with proof of work. But there are already lots of blockchain protocols which work with proof of stake. And proof of stake is where 1 or 2 miners solve the puzzle for everyone. Right? So in the next few years, Ethereum 2.0, they already started the protocol, and Iota and all kinds of other blockchain protocols will change that. And the power consumption will go down with a factor of 10,000. Here you see one of those projects. Iota is working with EnergyNet, which is a Danish public service, Danish Ministry of Energy, for storing all kinds of energy data on their blockchain. Blockchain, renewable energy marketplaces, right? You've all heard about microgrids. Here in Holland there are also already have been a few tests. In Amsterdam you had the Keuvel. That's a small project. They had their own coin, the Juliet, from Joule. What you would do is you would put solar panels on your roof, and those solar panels would generate kilowatts. And you could say they would be mining energy. So you could use those kilowatts to buy your bread from the baker, because he needs energy to heat up his oven, right? And you'll have a energy coin, right? But you could also say, I use a crypto coin to purchase the energy from my neighbor, his solar panels. And then you would have a very local Van de Bron project. There are some coins also that are already registered, that are special. Power Ledger, WePower, and Energy Web tokens that all are working on a platform to exchange local energy for local coins. And then there is greenwashing, right? There are lots of companies telling the public, well, we are using green energy, right? The whole blockchain industry does that. The blockchain industry says, yes, we are using lots of energy, but 60 or 70% is renewable. Is that true? Well, you could use the blockchain to prove that. Where do you buy that energy? And from whom? And where do they buy it? Or who generates that energy? And how green is it? So by storing all that information on the blockchain, you can trace the origin of the energy back to the source and be sure that the energy is really green. Now, we as a Blockchain Lab Drenthe, we are doing a project for the gemeente Emmen. That's an e-wallet where we store every house in Emmen will get their own identity on the blockchain, and the residents of that house, who are there only temporarily, right? That house will be there for 30, 50 years, and these people will move, will sell the house, so they are not important. The house has its own identity, and they store information about, does it have solar panels? Does it have a heat pump? Does it have isolation, wall isolation, etc. In that identity, the gemeente Emmen, the municipality of Emmen, will give coins for using that information. For planning, for instance, a heat net in Emmen, they need information. They want to pay the people for the information they provide, and with that wallet, the wallet from the house, they can go to local retailers and buy energy efficient lamps or whatever. So we're starting that up right now, and that's one of the projects we do for the municipality of Emmen. I could talk about this for days, right? But I hope I gave you a little bit of an insight about what blockchain is and what you can do with blockchain. I cannot make you a professor in distributed ledger technology in 40 minutes, but I hope you have some idea how it works. Like I said, if you have any questions, put them in the GoToWebinar chat, and I will wait for Hein to ask them. Here you see my favorite quote, right? Because in technology everybody says, oh, the sky is the limit. No, it's even better. Don't tell me the sky is the limit when there are footsteps on the moon. Everything you can imagine can be built. We're leaving for Mars in a few months, maybe a year, 2 years. And in technology, with blockchain, with energy, etc., your only restraint is your imagination. If you can think it, technologists can build it. Okay, thank you. I hope you liked it, and if you have any questions, Hein will ask them. Loud and clear. There's a bit of a delay because YouTube needs 4 seconds to get my signal to you. Okay, I will try to show you. I will go to my browser and show that. So the hash of the first block, this hash, is automatically stored in the next block when they start calculating that, right? So what your student is talking about is that there was a time between completion of the first block and this hash was generated, and then there's 10 minutes time window before the next block. But everybody knows the hash of the first block, right? So maybe that hacker can change information, but only on his own computer. All the other 9,000 miners have the original, and they will just discard this information which he generated. So that is tackled. It is impossible to go in between blocks and change that information. Well, what is a currency? What is money, right? Money is just a piece of paper with a number on it. And years ago, decades ago, there was a lot of gold in a safe of the National Bank. And for that many kilos, you would have that many pieces of paper representing that value. Now, nowadays, that money, that gold is gone, right? There was only 3% value in gold left, and even that was sold. So in fact the coverage for the value of the money is just a promise. And the same is true for Bitcoin, right? We have a finite number of Bitcoins. There will only be 21 million Bitcoins. Every 10 minutes at the moment, 6.25 Bitcoins are generated. In a few years, that will be 3. That halves until 2140. The last Bitcoin will be mined. There's a finite number, 21 million. With money, your paper money, that's not finite. Let's say Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden need 2,000 billion US dollars. They just start the printing machine and print money, right? That's called inflation. Now in Bitcoin or in Ether, that's not the case. There's a finite, there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. So the price will go up and down, what we've seen the last months, because people want to buy Bitcoin. There is more demand than that people are offering. And so the price goes up. That's the first economic law. If there's more people buying than selling, price will go up. So it's a number of ones and zeros, but they represent a certain value. As long as people want to pay money for that. It's like NFTs, right? a few weeks ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, this gentleman sold this digital art for $70 million. It's digital art. It's just a number of ones and zeros. But as long as somebody wants to pay that to own that piece of digital art, then that's the value. All right? If I want to buy a painting of Van Gogh, it's just a painting. But it's from Van Gogh. There's only one. Other people want to have it, so it has a certain value. And that's the same with those ones and zeros of cryptocurrencies. Okay. Well, Bling, like I said, blockchain in government. Governments have lots of problems on imagining how to work with blockchain. Because if there's one thing is what the government is centralized, right? They don't have a concept of storing information decentralized. Now, we're doing all kinds of projects. I'll give you one more example. We're working with CGIB. That's the Central Department for collecting traffic fines in Holland, CGIB. If you go through a red light, they will send you 240 euros bill, a fine. Now, the government of the Netherlands says, well, 240 euros is an amount which is enough to punish you. But there are people living under a certain social level that don't have the income to pay those 240 euros. Now, if they get a traffic fine for 240 euros, they cannot pay that. And 3 weeks later, they will double it. And they cannot pay that also. And 3 weeks later, they will double it again. And then it's nearly 1,000 euros. Now, the Dutch government doesn't want to be the party that pushes these people off the cliff, right? So what they invented was the financial handbrake, the red button. People with that low of an income can go to their municipality and get a token, a digital string. And when they get a traffic fine, they can send that string to the CGIB. The CGIB can check without looking at your private information. They will look at the token, check at your municipality if that is valid, and then you still have to pay your traffic fine, right? But otherwise it would be a carte blanche to do all kinds of illegal stuff. But you can pay that without doubling every 3 weeks. And you can even pay that in terms, right? So you can pay 50 euros every month until you pay that 240. Now, that's a project on the blockchain. That's called the red button. And there are lots of kinds of projects like this, where you can use public services in combination with blockchain. Great. Thank you for the invite. like I said, there is so much of interesting projects, right? The World Health Organization is using blockchain in refugee camps, etc. We're talking about that on our blockchain meetups. If you are really interested in that, we have a monthly live stream, the third Thursday of the month. Just follow the link in the description and you will go to the website of Blockchain Lab Drenthe. I will put the link to the meetup.com also. And if you have any questions, you can send them per mail also. It's info@bcld, Blockchain Lab Drenthe, bcld.nl. And I will try to answer them. If you have any questions about the technology or even if how you could use that in energy, then don't hesitate to ask them. It was a pleasure to do so, and I hope you will find some value in the information and it will help you in the future. Thank you very much.